When I took in a stranger during the storm, I never expected to find love. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The thunder roared like a beast, shaking my whole little house. I had just settled into my worn-out chair with a book when the wind screamed outside. Each gust reminded me of the chaos life could bring. My heart raced, each beat echoing my unease as rain pounded against the windows like a desperate plea for help. That I jumped up, pacing the room with trembling hands, as flashes of lightning illuminated my cozy space. Then I heard Ida's frantic knock, barely audible above the storm's fury. My stomach turned. Who would be out there in such a tempest? Curiosity seized me, pulling me toward the door like a moth to a flame. I hesitated. What if it's dangerous? But the knocks grew louder, more insistent. I swung the door open. There stood a figure, soaked to the bone, hair plastered against a pale face. His eyes were wide, stormy gray, filled with something wild and dark. "Please," he gasped, shivering. "I need shelter." In that moment, something profound stirred within me. Was it fear? Or was it a flicker of something else? I stepped aside, heart racing, nerves electric. "Come in," I whispered, not entirely sure of what I was doing. As he entered, I caught a whiff of rain-soaked earth and something deeper, a hint of smoke. Danger. My heart pounded louder as he crossed the threshold, leaving a trail of water behind him. I shut the door against the storm, but left it ajar in my mind. Wondering what I had invited into my world, he introduced himself as Jax, though his voice seemed to carry a weight that suggested more than just a name. The storm raged outside, but inside, all I could hear was the taut silence between us. As he took off his jacket, revealing scars that whispered forgotten tales, I felt an odd mix of fear and fascination grow within me. Our eyes locked. There was something in his Gazia restlessness that mirrored my own hidden desires. I wanted to ask about them, but words tangled in my throat. Instead, I offered him a towel and a cup of tea. Right then, the reflected light from outside cast strange shadows on the walls, dancing around us like restless spirits. With each moment, I was acutely aware of the storm outside, but here, with Jax, everything felt charged, electric. My heart teetered on the edge of something thrilling yet terrifying. Why was he really here? Why did he have to knock so urgently? Just then, the power flickered. The room fell into darkness before the next strike of lightning illuminated the space. For a fleeting second, I saw fear cross his face in unsettling vulnerability. My chest tightened. Could he be running from something? A simpler storm, perhaps. As I reached across the table to reassure him, I heard a noise. A thud, then silence. I spun around, my heart racing, breath hitching. Something felt off. I turned back to Jax. He looked at me, eyes wide, lips parted, but before he could speak, the electricity surged back to life in that instant. My heart sank, a shadow darted outside the window. I could feel his gaze fixed on me, his breath uneven, shared between panic and excitement. "Did you see that?" he said, voice trembling. I nodded, but fear pooled in my stomach. The storm wasn't the only thing raging out there. Then, amidst the chaos, an unsettling thought crept in. Was the real stranger here? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The wind howled outside, a beast ravenous for civilization, while darkness loomed within my little home, cloaking it in uncertainty. Jax's face, lit intermittently by flashes of lightning, reflected not just fear, but something deeper, a history he was reluctant to share. The shadows danced, their flickers betraying my racing heart, a stark contrast to the calm I desperately sought to maintain. "Oh, you think someone is out there?" I asked, attempting a bravado I didn't feel. Outside, the rain lashed against the house, each drop a reminder of the tempest around us. Jax swallowed hard, his expression wavering between anxiety and resolve. "That I don't know," he replied, his voice low. "But we should stay away from the windows." He shifted instinctively closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from his body, a stark reminder of the warmth I craved amidst the chaos. The silence after his words hung heavy in the air. I could feel the barriers of our pasts pressing down on us like the storm outside, and beneath the gentle clatter of rain, I heard the faint echo of his unspoken fears. In this moment, I wished I could dispel the shadows that clung to him, to uncover the truths lurking just beneath the surface. Before I could voice my curiosity, the power flickered again, and the house plunged into darkness a second time. But it was only temporary. The lights sputtered back to life after a moment, and I caught a glimpse of Jax's haunted expression. My heart raced. What thoughts swirled in his mind? What past clawed at his soul? We stepped away from the window, the space between us impossibly small. Maybe we should talk about something else, I suggested, though my voice was barely a whisper. Tell me about yourself. He hesitated, eyes darting away as if the question was an anchor in a turbulent sea. There isn't much to tell, he murmured. I'm just passing through. Passing through. The words dripped with a sense of transience, and yet there was an unspoken weight behind them. Before I could pry further, the storm outside seemed to grow in intensity, and a new noise broke through the thunderous sound that made my blood run cold. A low growl, thick with menace, echoed through the night. What was that? My heart dropped as dread consumed me, but Jax's expression shifted from uncertainty to fierce determination. Stay here, he ordered, eyes flickering with a protective instinct I had never expected from him. Wait, don't, I protested, but he was already moving, slipping into the dark hallway, illuminated only by the occasional flash of lightning. My instincts waged war within me, urging me to grab his arm and reel him back, yet a potent force within me wanted to trust him. Jax, be careful, I called, the words ricocheting off the walls as I crept anxiously to the edge of the doorway. My heart felt like it was beating louder than the storm. The shadows around me seemed to hold their breath, waiting for something to reveal itself, and then, silence. I strained to hear anything that would tell me he was okay, anything other than the wind's relentless roar. Each second stretched like an eternity. Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, a cruel reminder of the outside world that threatened to rupture this fragile moment. I rushed back to the front room and sank my hands into my hair, desperately wishing I could hear his voice, know he was safe. Just then, the lights flickered once more. An eerie realization gripped me. A shadow lingered in the corner of my vision. My breath hitched as I turned slowly, dread clawing at my insides. What I saw made my blood run cold. In the dim light, Jax stood in the corridor's mouth, stark and ghostly, but there was something behind him, a figure shrouded in darkness, watching. I froze. Jax. Panic surged through me like the storm outside as I took a hesitant step forward. My heart thudded painfully against my ribs. Who is that? Jax turned slowly, his face pale, lips quivering as the figure drew closer. Fear flickered in his stormy gray eyes. This was no stranger, but a piece of a past he had fought so fiercely to escape. The electricity in the air crackled ominously as the tempest raged on, and in that moment, everything I thought I understood began to unravel. Was I just a temporary shelter, or would I be swept up in whatever storm had found Jax? The question loomed in the air, heavy with dread and impending revelation. The figure stepped forward, breaking the thin layer of darkness that had enveloped Jax. I squinted, the light from the room doing little to pierce through the oppressive shadows. My breath caught in my throat as recognition seeped in the remnants of a past I had only heard whispers of, little more than a haunting fog that cloaked Jax's life. It was a woman, slender and fierce, her hair swaying like tendrils of smoke as she approached. I hadn't expected a ghost, and yet here she was. Is it really you, Jax? Her voice emerged from the darkness with a chilling familiarity, laced in both relief and accusation. The fragile thread of hope tethered in my chest snapped, leaving only raw tension behind. I thought you were dead then. Oh no. Jax stepped back, his body language betraying him, revealing layers of fear I had never glimpsed before. I'm not here for you. The woman's eyes narrowed, glistening with unshed sorrow that transformed into anger. You were supposed to protect me. I barely recognized the trembling in Jax's hands as he confronted the specter of his past. Each word she uttered weighed heavily, pressing down upon him like the storm rolling outside. I tried. He barked, the crack in his voice amplifying the turmoil in the room. You know I didn't have a choice. As I stood frozen, my mind roiled with 1,000 questions. Who was this woman? What bond had existed between them? And what darkness had woven them together? Your choices cost more than you can imagine, she replied bitterly, her voice scraping against the walls of my isolation. And now you think you can just run away? You'll never escape. With every glance exchanged, the storm outside seemed to mirror the chaos within, unleashing its fury as fiercely as the emotions that bubbled under the surface. I felt like an outsider, and yet, I couldn't tear my gaze from Jack's, nor could I dismiss the sense of betrayal that nosedived into my heart. I'm not running, he insisted, his tone softening as he took a step towards her. I wanted to shout that he was lying, that he was running from more than just her, but words failed me, lodged in my throat as the tension thickened. Then why are you here? She threw the question at him like a knife, and I flinched. My heart ached for him, caught between the torment of yesterday and the fragile chance I had hoped for today, because I have to protect her. He gestured vaguely to me, his eyes darting to meet mine for just a moment, and I could feel the weight of his confession and anchor in a storm of anguish. Protect her? The woman laughed, an edge of disbelief in her tone that twisted the knife deeper. And what about me? Did you ever think you had a responsibility to me? The air crackled with unsaid truths, and I sensed the desperation under the surfacia battle raging between love and guilt, loyalty and abandonment. Jax trembled, each moment pouring salt into wounds I couldn't even begin to fathom. In a surge of courage, I stepped forward, feeling the echoes of my own fears. Maybe there's still a chance, but the woman cut me off. You don't understand. You were just another way for him to hide from the choices he made. Her accusation hit hard, laying bare the tumult between them, and my heart twisted as I recognized the truth in her words. Stop, Jax implored, and there it was, the fissure in the facade that broke open. Tears brimmed in his eyes, revealing a vulnerability I longed to hold, to cradle and protect. I care about you both, but I can't fix this. Not now. A silence stretched painfully between us, the storm outside echoing the tempest within. I could feel the walls of my own heart inching closed, struggling to comprehend the split reality before me. Was I just a fleeting comfort in his tumultuous existence? Was love ever enough against the dark? Fine, she hissed, her visage slipping back into the shadows, yet her gaze pinned me down. Then you should know that your past isn't done with you. It will come back, Jax, and it will take everything if you let it. And then just like that, as she slipped away into the depths of the hallway, the tempest stilled. Desperate. Silence filled the space where she once stood, leaving behind a chill that sank deep into my bones. What did she mean? I whispered, taking a step back, fear creeping into my resolve. What is she talking about? Jax's expression crumbled as he sank against the wall, his breath shaky. I don't know. I thought I was done running. The faintest spark of hope flickered, but it dimmed quickly, swallowed by the shadows once again. And in that moment, the door ominously rattled, a sinister sound cutting through the tension, signaling that whatever darkness Jax had escaped was still out there, lingering just beyond the threshold, waiting for its chance to strike. My heart raced as I stared into the darkness beyond the door. Would I even be safe here with Jax, or would the storm finally claim us both? The door shuddered as a gust of wind pressed against it, a low moan escaping from the frame, sending a shiver coursing through me. Jax's eyes widened, revealing a vulnerability that cut through the air like a knife. He darted to the door, a protective instinct taking over, but the flicker of fear shadowed his movements. What if it's her? I murmured, dread pooling in my stomach. No. The words slipped from his lips with a conviction that surprised even him. She wouldn't come back here. Not now. But the way he scanned the shadows told me he hardly believed his own words, that I couldn't stand still any longer. A surge of adrenaline seized me, and I closed the distance between us, my hand gripping his forearm. Jax, we need to deal with this together. Whatever is on the other side, we face it together. My insistence. He inhaled deeply, head cocked to one side, as if listening for something beyond the storm's roar. In that moment, a wretched sense of understanding washed over me. Was tethered to him. Whether we faced danger or hope, something inside wanted to stay. He finally turned to me, eyes darkened with a whirlpool of emotions. You shouldn't have to face this, he whispered, and for a moment, I felt as though I'd stepped into a realm where nobody else existed. You deserve more than my past. Maybe the past is what makes us who we are, I replied softly. Maybe it's what brings us closer. The rattling ceased, leaving only the pounding rain and the distant rumble of thunder. Jax clenched his jaw, anguish flickering behind those deep-set eyes. His vulnerability tore at me, a kindred spirit aching under the strain of history and the weight of decisions. But just as the moment stretched, a figure emerged from the shadows beyond the door, a silhouette that loomed larger than life, while also feeling achingly familiar. I squinted, heart thrumming violently, fingers twitching at my side. The unyielding darkness shifted, and when it did, I was met with the despairing gaze of a stranger, Jax. The voice sliced through the stillness, dripping with palpable urgency. It wasn't the woman from before. This voice was deeper, laden with brokenness. Within moments, my mind began to reel with the implications of this new arrival. Jonathan. Jax's voice was barely a whisper now, trembling as if a specter had walked through the door. What are you doing here? The man Jonathan stepped closer, illuminated by flashes of lightning, revealing a face etched with worry and weariness. It flickered with a rawness, as if he had faced the tempest himself. I had to warn you, he said, eyes darting between Jax and me, recognizing something buried beneath the chaos. She's coming back, and it won't just be her. The ones you abandoned are looking for you. Shock settled in my chest, vibrating against the impending darkness I'd felt all night. Who? I demanded, desperation climbing higher. What do you mean? But as Jonathan's lips parted to answer, the air thickened, charged with the reality that chased Jax since the beginning. People you betrayed. They want their retribution, he confessed, anguish pooling beneath the surface. My stomach churned, and the ground felt unstable underfoot. I turned to Jax, searching for any sign that he could withstand the weight of this revelation, but his gaze was distant, haunted by ghosts that I couldn't yet see. Jax, I tentatively called, but the words felt hollow against the encroaching terror. We can't let them find you. We need a plan. I thought. His voice cracked as he stepped back, uncertainty spilling into the air between us. I thought I could leave that life behind. Jonathan's voice emerged, heavy and ominous. It doesn't matter what you thought. The past has a way of clawing back, Jax. And this time, it's not just you whole pay. The storm outside grew more violent, shaking the walls until they seemed to breathe along with my mounting anxiety. I felt swallowed by darkness, and in the depths of fear, I realized we had unknowingly invited a tempest of our own. But before I could voice the trepidation crawling up my spine, a loud crash resonated from outside, sending shards of glass raining down, tearing through the fragile peace we had tried to cultivate. Get down, Jax shouted, instinctively shoving me to the floor just as a shadow darted past the window, its presence pestering the remnants of safety we had managed to hold on to. The room plunged into chaos, but amidst the fear, a flicker of resilience ignited deep within me. We had defeated the darkness before, and I resolved that we could do it again. I could see the fight flaring back into Jax's eyes, and despite the growing dread, I felt a wave of defiance surge through us both. Whatever is out there, Jax, I breathed, looking into the depths of his often hidden soul, we will face it together. Do we have a choice? Just as an answer began to bloom between us, another voice echoed from the door, cold and haunting. You can't escape your past, Jax. It's time to pay the debt. And with those words hanging like a noose in the air, the storm intensified, locking us in with whatever horror awaited outside. With the shout echoing behind me, the world felt like it had narrowed to a pointless singular focus on the lurking menace that had upended our fragile truce. I felt my heart pounding in my throat, a reminder that we were hurtling deeper into something unspeakable. Jonathan's warning loomed over us, the weight of betrayal and the urgency of survival intertwining. Jax stiffened beside me, muscles tensed as if bracing for a blow. I could feel the fight within him, his energy churning against the phantom shadows of his past. Yet, I feared that shadow was about to devour him whole. We need to get out of here, I whispered, barely above the cacophony of the storm, as adrenaline replaced my fear, crystallizing into determination. Now that he flicked his gaze toward Jonathan, whose expression had morphed into one of frantic urgency. "You're right, but where can we go? They'll find us wherever we run." Each word was a struggle, a reflection of the torment he'd carried within the shackles of guilt chaining him to a time he couldn't escape. "Run far enough, and they'll stop looking," Jonathan said, his eyes darting around as if the ghosts of Jax's past were already spilling into our sanctuary. "And if we don't leave now, we'll never have a chance." Suddenly, like a spark igniting a wildfire, an unexpected thought pierced through my panic, a whisper of hope hidden within the storm. "Do you have a car?" I asked, my heart racing as I searched the depths of Jonathan's weary face. "I do," he replied, almost reluctantly. "Then we take it." I felt a surge of adrenaline urging my words forward. "No matter what comes, we don't turn back." That I could see Jax grappling internally, torn between the dread of facing his past and the flickers of hope that I had ignited within him. "But what if they're right behind us?" His voice cracked with uncertainty, raw fear mirrored in his eyes. "Then we run faster." My words came out stronger than I felt, a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, urging him to grasp it. I reached for his hand and felt him tense, as though letting go would mean succumbing to the chaos. "Trust me, Jax. No one can take away the future we create together." For a split second, it felt as if time stood still. In that charged moment, Jax's gaze softened, tender yet filled with an echo of the battle still raging within him. I want to believe that," he said, the flicker of a smile breaking through his tumult. It opened a doorway of hope, a small act of kindness illuminating the heavy darkness that pressed on us. "What's the plan?" Jonathan's interruption brought us back to the present, forcing us to refocus as the wind hissed ominously through the walls. "Out the back," I said. "The rain is heavy enough that they won't see us if we time it right. Let's go." I led the way, pushing the door open creakily, paying homage to the unnerving silence beyond. Each step felt like a declaration forward into uncertainty, but perhaps into the light. Jax followed closely behind, Jonathan trailing us. The rain poured down in sheets, drenching us immediately, but it felt cleansing, a purging of the guilt and expectations that kept us bound to the past. As we navigated the yard, flashes of lightning illuminated the corners of the world, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching, closing in, a predator watching its prey. Gritting my teeth, I focused on the car parked at the edge of the property, its headlights barely visible through the torrent. We reached it, and as Jonathan fumbled with the keys, the sense of urgency inside me built to a crescendo. I could hear the faint sound of voices rising through the storm, growing louder like a swelling tide. "Hurry," I urged, glancing over my shoulder to see if shadows were following us. With a click, the car's locks responded, and we climbed in hurriedly. The world outside blurred in a chaotic mess of rain-streaked glass. The weight of choice bore down on us, and just as Jonathan turned the ignition, the engine sputtered before roaring to life. Suddenly, a hand slammed against the rear window, the figure distorted through rain and fear. I turned in horror to see a face that made my blood run cold, a woman with wild eyes and dark, matted hair, the very essence of vengeance pouring from her every pore. "Jax." Her voice screeched, a venomous whisper beneath the storm. "You can't leave like this. You owe me. You owe all of us." A visceral chill sunk into my bones as I met Jax's startled gaze. Confusion and panic etched across his features. "Mara?" he gasped, recognition flaring like a flame. "Start driving," I yelled, my heart hammering in time with the frantic pulse of survival. The moment stretched, taut and electric with fear, as Jonathan's hesitation spoke volumes. "Let's get out of here." With an urgency that felt like a lifeline, we shot out into the storm, tires slipping against the wet earth, leaving the haunting echoes of the past behind, but not without knowing that shadows lingered, fast upon our heels, waiting for their chance to reclaim what we'd dare to escape. And just as relief flooded through me, a revelation struck harder than the thunderous rain. Jax's past was not merely alive. It was clawing its way back, intent on claiming him once more. The car hummed as we sped down the road, rain lashing against the windshield like the angry fists of vengeful spirits. The storm outside mirrored the tempest inside, each droplet a reminder of what we had escaped, and yet, each heartbeat a countdown to the inevitable confrontation that lay ahead. Jax was silent, tension etched across his face, his eyes wide and unseeing, lost in a labyrinth of memory. I reached out, brushing my fingers against his arm, searching for a connection amidst the chaos. "Jax, we're away from her," I murmured, my voice barely reaching above the howl of the wind. "We can talk about this." "We can't talk about what?" he said, his tone sharper than I had intended. "Talk about how she's right, how I owe her, how I became the monster I tried to escape." I pulled my hand back like I'd been burned. "You're not a monster." I struggled to keep the tremor from my voice. "You're not, then how do we end up here?" His eyes finally met mine, swirling with a confusion mixing anger and desperation. It broke my heart to see the walls he had built around himself swiftly rising again. "What I'm saying is, your past doesn't have to define you. You still have choices." I felt wild with emotion, clinging to the hope I desperately wanted for both of us. "Right now, you can choose a different path." Jonathan, who had driven silently, shot me a quick glance before returning his focus to the road. "We need to put as much distance between us and her as possible before we figure this out," he interjected, the calm urgency in his voice working to ground us. The glow of passing headlights cast fleeting shadows across his face, underscoring the weariness etched there, but also the bravery within. For a heartbeat, the conversation seemed to still. Then, Jack spoke, his voice barely more than a whisper. "I can't just run away from what I did. Mara, she isn't just some figment of my past. She's part of it. She's the one I hurt. And she's right. I owe her for what I've done." The words hung heavy, and a sense of dread smothered me. "Jax, listen, I can't keep running from this. I can't. I thought I could escape it all, but Mara, she's not going away." His shoulders slumped, a moment of vulnerability slipping through the armor he wore. The shadows in his gaze deepened, and suddenly, I recognized the obstacle in our path wasn't just the storm or even the figure he had seemingly left behind. It was the very notion of who he believed he was. Guilt gripped him like an anchor, threatening to pull him down into the depths he feared above all. "Well, face it together. You don't have to do this alone," I said insistently, determination coursing through me. "Just tell us what you need. We will figure it out. I'm not going anywhere." Jax turned to me then, vulnerability mingling with raw fear. "What if it pulls you down with me?" Before I could respond, a loud crack of thunder shook the atmosphere, and the car jolted slightly. Jonathan's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he navigated through the slick conditions, the shifting interplay of light and shadow on his face a reminder of the stakes. "Do you think that matters?" "We've already chosen this path," Jonathan said, voice firm. "It's either keep running or turn back to confront what we left behind. Trust us, Jax. Trust yourself. You're stronger than you realize." Those last words resonated in the confined space, their gravity pulling us closer amid our individual storms. "You deserve a chance to make amends. We'll help you," I promised, meeting his gaze and sinking deep into his uncertainty. Jax hesitated, the turmoil in his chest crashing like waves against a shore. "What if it's too late?" he asked, his voice cracking, betraying the boy he once was, the boy I wanted to save. Before I could respond, an unexpected figure loomed out of the rain. "Stop!" a voice shouted, piercing through the din of the storm. Jonathan hit the brakes with a frantic lurch. The tires skidded on the slick road, the world tilting as we halted moments before impact. My heart raced as dread pooled in my stomach, and I turned to see an eerily familiar face illuminated by the fading glow of street lamps. It was Mara again, drenched but determined, standing defiantly in the road, blocking our escape. The wind whipped through her tangled hair, and her eyes burned with an intensity that spoke volumes of the chaos within. "Jax!" Her voice carried a mixture of pleading and accusation, trembling on the edge of desperation. "You think you can just leave California like nothing ever happened? You owe me the truth." The standoff hung heavy for a moment, and I felt the darkness of the past swell around us, threatening to drag Jax back into its depths. "Jax, don't!" I cried, gripping his arm tightly as if tethering him to the present. But just as hope flickered, a chilling thought struck me. The storm wasn't just outside. The storm was here, within the confines of this car, suffocating me in its grip. In a heartbeat, Jax's face reflected a tumultuous mix of determination and resignation. He took a deep breath, ready to confront the demons he had fled from. "Morano, I interrupted, unable to bear the thought of losing him to this whirlwind. My fingers tightened around his forearm, his skin warm yet shadowed by burdens I could scarcely understand. We can still go? But as I tried to comprehend a way out, Jax's expression shifted. The decision was made, and the weight of his past clung to him like chains. I braced myself as the violent storm continued to rage, both outside and within. The rain fell heavier, a relentless cascade that blurred the line between reality and despair. I looked at Jax, whose gaze was riveted on Mara, as though the tempest outside had ceased to exist. He was slipping through my fingers, the invisible binds of his past pulling him away from everything I hoped we could be. Mara, we can talk, he said, his voice steady, but I sensed the shudder of fear layered beneath it. You don't have to do this. She took a step forward, soaked to the bone, but there was a firmness in her stance I hadn't anticipated. You think I want to chase you down? You think I enjoy what you've turned this into? I deserve answers, Jax. We both do, answers? He echoed, his brow furrowing. You think the truth will fix what's broken? Maybe it isn't about fixing, she said fiercely, each word dripping with pent-up frustration. Maybe it's about understanding, about not trying to run away from what happened. You can't just act like we never had a past. The tension in the air felt electric, and I could see Jax's defenses slipping just a fraction as Mara's desperation pierced through the fog of regret that had clouded his heart. I squeezed his arm, a silent plea for him to remember what lay just beyond this moment, the chance for redemption, not just for himself, but for everyone who had been hurt along the way. Mara, I ventured, my voice raw but resolute. Please let him breathe. He needs a moment. Toto, what? She interjected, turning to me. To hide. To stay silent while he lets my life hang in the balance? You don't understand. There's a weight here that won't leave him alone, and you can't fix this by just running. My heart sank. This was not what I had envisioned. It wasn't supposed to unravel like this. I fought for something to say, something that might defuse the tension without escalating it further. We're not running if we choose to move forward as a team together. That's what he needs to hear. That he doesn't have to do this alone. Mara regarded me searchingly, her expression softening slightly, though the anger still simmered in her eyes. And you think the answer is to just pretend nothing ever happened? You're in over your head, sweetheart. Jax is drowning in the very issues you think you can escape. Jax's heavy breath curled in the humid air between us. Mara, you deserve the truth, but it's complicated. I can't just why not? She pressed. Because you're afraid you'll lose your chance at freedom? I want you to be free, Jax. But you won't be free until you confront what you've done. As thunder boomed, remembering just how close to the edge we all stood, I realized there was something more hidden in the shadows cast by Mara's anger and unexpected kindness underlying her fiery resolve. Maybe it wasn't just about blame and retribution. Perhaps she truly wanted closure, a chance for understanding and healing. Just tell me what you need, Jax, I whispered again, hoping to weave that thread back to him, to remind him that he wasn't alone even now. I don't know if I can, he whispered, eyes wells of hurt and uncertainty. What if it shatters everything? What if it tears open wounds that will never heal? In that moment, the echoes of his past pulsed not only in his own heart, but also echoed in Mara's gaze. She wasn't merely a figure of blame. She was an intricate part of a story that had yet to be told completely. But I have to try, he finally uttered, resolve creeping into his tone. He turned to her, expression fierce with the weight of his choice, though I could see the cracks running deeper than had ever let on before. Whatever it takes. I owe you that much. Mara stepped closer, their eyes locked, and for the first time, I sensed the tremor of something akin to forgiveness flickering between them. Why didn't you just say that? She demanded, as though searching for an opening, a sliver of light in the darkness. Because Jax had always feared the truth could consume him, I thought, the memories of his anguish swirling in a storm far too turbulent for one person alone. But even amid the growing emotional storm, something in me swelled with a flicker of hope. If they could find some semblance of peace, maybe we could. As the rain poured around us, drowning everything else, the tension shifted, allowing a moment of clarity to break through the chaos. In that thick air, I drew in a breath, holding on tightly to the idea that sometimes pain could lead to unexpected revelations. But just then, a sudden splash in the rain caught my eye. A dark figure emerged from the opposite side of the road, another unwelcome interruption. A glance showed me Jonathan, still poised and determined at the wheel, with a look of horror dawning on his face as he turned to watch the approaching figure. Guys, we're not alone. My heart dropped as the silhouette veered dangerously close, wearing a look that sent shivers down my spine. The weight of newly unveiled truths seemed poised to collide with a past that refused to be silenced. In that moment, I realized that confronting the demons in our lives sometimes meant facing shadows that lurked beyond our control. And the storm, raging both within and without, only promised upheaval on the horizon. The drenched figure moved closer, the outlines sharpening as it approached. Embodying more than just rain-soaked clothes, it was a specter of unresolved fears, a reminder of choices made long ago. The pounding of my heart thrummed a frantic beat, drowning out the cacophony of the rain. I could barely see Jonathan's brimming fear, eclipsed by the rush of memories flooding back, uninvited and relentless. "Stay back," Jax called out, his voice sharp but wavering, yanking my attention back to him. Fear radiated off him, a pulsing energy mixing with the icy chill of the storm. But my instinct was to move forward. The stranger was clearly in distress, yet there was something familiar about the silhouette, something that curled around my heart like a whisper of déjà vu. With the rain swirling in chaotic torrents, I took a step forward, instinctively almost, as if I had some sense of who this stranger might be. Just as the light of a nearby lamppost flickered, illuminating the figure fiercely for a brief moment, I gasped. It was Lucas, someone I hadn't seen in years, a childhood friend, someone who had once brought laughter and light into a time when shadows loomed. "Lucas?" I called out, my voice barely reaching through the storm. His face was slick with rain, but the recognition in his eyes mirrored my own bewilderment. He staggered forward, breathless and startled, as though facing a ghost in the wet, dim night. "What are you doing here?" he shouted against the lashing rain, urgency and grief mingling on his face. Behind me, I could feel Jax's grip tighten on my arm, a silent warning. Memories clouded my thoughts, pulling me into a past that was unsettling and bittersweet. "I was hoping to escape," Lucas said, panting heavily. "But it seems wherever I turn, I find more chaos." His eyes darted between us, first Jax, whose aura crackled with tension, then Mara, still simmering but momentarily frozen in place. Mara took a wobbly step back, the rawness of the moment visibly unsettling her. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured softly under breath. I sensed a shared history lurked between Thema, history that could shift the balance of emotions within our fragile group. "Neither should you," Lucas fired back, anger and pain intertwining in his words. "He's still running, isn't he? Just like the night you all disappeared." Jax's eyes flickered, embarrassment lining his cheeks as if a certainty that shadows had unveiled some long-buried truth. "I didn't disappear," he protested, a desperate edge sharpening his voice. "I was lost in my own mess." Lucas' brow furrowed, an unmistakable determination igniting behind his stormy gaze. "You think you can drown your past in rain?" He gestured widely, as if gathering the strength of the storm itself for the conflict that was surfacing. "You need to confront it, Jax. We all do. This isn't just your battle anymore." With that, the barrier broke, and shared memories surged around us, feeding the tension in the air. A faint glimmer of understanding shone through Lucas' fierce expression. It suddenly became about more than just Jax or Mara. It was about choices, consequences, and the tangled web binding us all together, a silent pact forged in the darkest of times. I couldn't help but take a step closer. "Lucas, we're all just trying to survive, you know?" My voice trembled, yet the earnestness rooted in my soul made it firm. "Trying to make sense of what we don't talk about. Everyone carries their own storms." "Then let's talk," Lucas urged, his tone softening even as the rain battered down around us. "Let's untangle this mess before it swallows us whole." His eyes fell upon Jax, pleading for honesty and connection, allowing the flickering light of understanding to pulse. Jax's gaze remained on the ground, but I could see the fight fading in him, like the dimming of tired flames. Silence hung heavily between us, an unbearable weight that demanded truth from each of us. It was then I felt the warmth of Jax's hand, slipping into mine, Seeking strength even amid this chaos, I thought letting the past drown would save me. He admitted at last, his voice barely breaking through the sheets of rain. But the truth is, it follows. It always does. The crack in his voice ignited a flicker of hope within me, an inkling that maybe, just maybe, he was willing to face the storm. But then it happened. The audible crack of thunder reverberated through the air, electrifying the tension again, when Jonathan stepped forward, urgent and desperate. Guys, this isn't just about you. It's about all of us. There's something you need to know about why I'm here. His words trailed heavy with significance, a revelation poised to unleash another tempest of emotions. Just when I thought fragile connections were beginning to weave, fear gripped my heart with icy fingers, knowing that the delicate piece we'd barely grasped could so easily slip away once more. As Jonathan's gaze swept the group like a storm cloud looming on the horizon, I realized how precariously we balanced on the brink of something profound, something that might just change every course our lives had taken until now. Jonathan, wait, I started, but his eyes held the kind of certainty that demanded attention and respect. The air thickened, our breaths trembling in unison as we braced ourselves not just for the storm around us, but the revelations that lay in wait within us. And in the shadows of chaos, hope shimmered, but only for those brave enough to confront the truth lurking in the dark. The storm raged on, its relentless fury echoing the tempest of emotions brewing within each of us. As Jonathan stood firm, poised to unveil a truth that felt as heavy and ominous as the clouds above, the electric tension wove through the air, binding us with unspoken fears and desires. Why are you really here, Jonathan? I demanded, my voice strained and shaky but resolute. I could feel Jax's grip tightening around my fingers, his silent support, both a comfort and a tether, urging me to remain grounded amidst the chaos. I came to find you all, Jonathan said, his gaze darting towards Lucas and then back to Jax, desperation etched across his face. There's something about what happened years ago that we've all missed, something that connects us in ways we never understanding until now. The pulse of pounding rain seemed to sync with the rhythm of our racing hearts, a heartbeat shared in the silence that followed. Suddenly, the world shrank down to just the five of us, each of our past conversations and whispers echoing like ghosts in the storm. Jax, who had looked so lost moments ago, stood a little taller. What are you saying? What do you know? His voice boomed above the water, tinged with a rawness I had never heard before. Jonathan took a deep breath, his face pale but determined. About the night, everything changed, the choices we made, and how they're still haunting us. There are secrets, Jack's dark ones, that started that night. Secrets that can't stay buried any longer. Secrets? Lucas repeated, disbelief etched in his words. You think pulling those out will do anything other than hurt us? We've carried the weight of that night for too long. But the look in Jonathan's eyes, a mix of urgency and sorrow, spoke volumes of the truth he believed would set us free. The storm turned the air electric around us, and it felt as if the heavens themselves questioned how deep our collective wounds ran. And if we don't face it, what then? Jonathan pressed, moving closer, vulnerability cracking open in his voice. We'll continue to let it drown us in regrets and what-ifs until we're left with nothing but broken memories. There's too much at stake. A thin veil of hope flickered in my chest, a stubborn ember refusing to get snuffed out by the storm's rage. What if facing it brings more pain? I asked, my doubts raw and unguarded, but with an undercurrent of curiosity. Would unraveling our shared past breed freedom, or just drag us down further into despair? What if it brings healing? Jonathan replied, his gaze unflinching, the earnest weight of honesty radiating from him like the warm glow of a candle in a pitch-black room. The conviction in his voice made it hard to look away. We owe it to ourselves, to all of us, to piece together what's left and not let the darkness define our future. The rain cascaded down around us, washing over our vulnerabilities as small moments of fleeting kindness emerged amidst the tempest. I could feel the warmth of Jax's hand in mine, steadying me when the truth felt like it might sweep me away. The connection between us, though fragile, tethered us to a sense of collective purpose. I am scared, Mara finally spoke, her words trembling in the wind, afraid yet emboldened by the presence of the others. I'm scared to hear what you have to say, and even more scared of what the truth could mean for us. In that moment, I realized we were all haunted, not just by the past, but also by fear of what was to come. Our history had created invisible chains, but perhaps, standing at the brink of this storm together, there could be a chance to break free. Then we face it together, I said, feeling a sense of clarity piercing through the cloud of uncertainty. My heart swelled with an unexpected promise, much like the warmth of the shared hope that began to stir in all of us. But as we leaned into our shared resolve, the storm stilled for a heartbeat, and Jonathan took an abrupt step back, his stunned expression leading to a moment of heart-stopping silence. "And there's a reason why my coming back now shifts everything," he said softly, almost reverently. "It's not just about our past, it's about a future." Lucid realization swept over us like the tide of crashing waves. "There's something I didn't tell you before I left," he breathed, fear threading through his words. "A letter I found that sundered everything we thought we knew, the truth that could change the course of our lives." "Jonathan, what are you talking about?" Lucas whispered, his earlier bravado fading into incredulity. But just as Jonathan opened his mouth to speak, a blinding flash of lightning lit up the sky, momentarily shocking us all. In the heartbeat that followed, a deafening crack of thunder interrupted the night, causing us to flinch back as one, the earth beneath quaking with the weight of unspoken revelations. And then, just like that, the sky opened its floodgates once more, drowning out our thoughts and fears. The world was once again chaos, our hearts trembling in the grip of uncertainty, every emotion amplified beneath the relentless pounding of the rain. Faced with the weight of Jonathan's revelation and the renewed storm, we stood on the edge of a truth that could weave us together or shatter us completely. The warmth of solidarity shifted into a chilling fear of coming storms yet to unveil themselves, leaving us teetering on the precipice of connection, desperate for the light, yet apprehensive of the shadows that could arise. As Jonathan's next words lingered heavily in the air, I realized then I was not just waiting for an answer. I was waiting for everything to change, irrevocably, forever. I stood in the shadow of the chaos that had spiraled around us, the storm howling madly, as if demanding our attention, our fears, and our hidden truths. Jonathan's words hung over us like a fragile breath waiting to shatter, each moment stretching out. But I could feel a charged energy in the air, the urgency of the past crashing into our present. "Jonathan, please," I said, my voice trembling, trying to anchor the tempest swirling between us. "Tell us the truth. Whatever it is, we can face it. Together." The atmosphere crackled as Jonathan nodded, determination washing over his features like the rain streaming down his face. "I didn't just come back to warn you," he began, eyes glistening in the dim light of the storm. "I came back because I found something that speaks to all our pasts." Jax's grip tightened around my hand, a silent promise of support, but I could still feel the current of anxiety pulsing through him. The shadows of doubt flickered in his eyes, and I knew we were all on the brink, teetering on the edge of revelation, a precipice that could lead us to freedom or devastation. "What did you find?" Lucas asked, impatience bubbling beneath his calm exterior. The shudder ran through Jonathan as he took a deep breath, steadying himself against the raging storm, his voice low yet deliberate. "A letter. It was addressed to all of us the night the accident happened, before everything changed." "An accident?" Mara interjected sharply, her voice a mixture of disbelief and urgency. "Is that what you think we're hiding from?" "It's more than that. We hurt. We lost." Jonathan nodded solemnly, acknowledgement flickering in his gaze as he continued. "But this letter, it reveals something far deeper. It's about choices. About accountability. Jax, it changes everything." Jax stepped forward, the weight of everything settling in his shoulders, but I could see a flicker of courage flaring in his stormy eyes. "What's in the letter?" he pressed, almost pleading for clarity amid the shadows of uncertainty. "There were people involved that we've never truly talked about," Jonathan said, voice steadying. "People whose lives were intertwined with ours, and you need to know they've been connected all along, ever since that night." The rain instilled a rhythm to the tension building, a backdrop to the vulnerability that unfurled among us. I could feel Jax's heart beating next to mine, each pulse a reminder of the unspoken storms we bore. "What if it tears us apart?" I whispered, fear creeping into my thoughts. but the honesty of his expression radiated something I had never considered. Maybe, Jonathan replied, but isn't that better than carrying the weight of undisclosed truths? The very truths that could haunt you forever? We need to embrace this for each other. And risk losing everything? Lucas added, skepticism lacing his words. We've all suffered so much already. Or risk never finding closure. I interjected, my heart racing with the understanding perched at the edge of my consciousness. We can't keep running. Not anymore. Mara glanced at each of us, piecing together her thoughts, and for a moment, it seemed like clarity sparked in her darkened expression. What do we stand to gain? She asked quietly, vulnerability stitching through her words like threads of lightning in the storm. As the questions lingered, an unsettling silence settled upon us, the kind that silenced the storm just for a heartbeat, amplifying the burgeoning connection wedged between hope and fear. It's about forgiveness, I said, my heart swelling with the realization. Forgiveness of ourselves and of each other. That's what I hear you're saying, Jonathan. Yes, he affirmed, his voice low yet powerful enough to breach the tumult. To build something new, we have to burn the remnants of old expectations. We need accountability, no more running. The weight of my words sunk in, the reality of what lay before us sharpening like a knife's edge amidst the chaos. Would we dare to cut through the darkness and embrace the light? Jax exhaled deeply, a mix of resignation and newfound conviction shimmering in his eyes. I want to know. I want to face whatever comes. But will it hurt? Jonathan stepped forward, his expression softening. It might, but sometimes pain leads to healing if we let it. What if we're not strong enough? Mara whispered, wrestling the fear of vulnerability that wrapped around her heart. As I looked around, meeting the eyes of each person bound by this shared struggle, I found strength in our shared resolve. We have each other, I said fiercely, squeezing Jax's hand tighter, grounding us in the moment. Our strength lies in our solidarity, in facing this storm together. And as the wind howled, a sense of determination surged within us, a potent force cascading through our collective heartbeats. Let's read that letter, Lucas said, his voice steady now, a declaration forged in the fire of our stories. Together, I echoed, a quiet promise tucked between us. The air around us shifted, tension loosening as the storm's rage fell into a softer rhythm, yearning for catharsis. With our paths intertwining, we took a step toward confronting our past and perhaps embracing our future. I'll go get it, Jonathan said. But when I return, you all need to be ready for the truths it reveals. Can you do that? We can, I affirmed, feeling the taut threads of anxiety finally beginning to weave together into a lifeline. Then Jonathan plunged into the shadows created by the storm, the dark and the rain, a hero retreating to gather the truth that had eluded us for too long. And as we stood together, flimsy raindrops merging with our quiet courage, I realized this was not just about a letter, nor a confrontation with the demons of our past. It was about acceptance and the hope of rebuilding what had once been lost. In this fleeting moment, I felt the warmth of Jax's presence beside me and understood that, storms aside, together we could weather the darkness, illuminating the path toward a dawn we had desperately sought. And though clouds still shielded the light of hope, the horizon began to glimmer softly, a reminder gleaming down as the first thread of sunrise pierced the horizon. I closed my eyes, savoring the hope blooming beneath the weight of shared truth and undiscovered connection. Hand in hand, we would weather every storm. And so we stood, hearts entwined in a tempest of promise that beat back against the fears that had kept us shackled, nervously anticipating the dawn that waited patiently beyond the rain. The journey ahead would be riddled with challenges, but more importantly, we were no longer alone, now united by the strength of shared truths, a tapestry woven from the fringes of our troubled pasts, stirring into something beautifully radiant and real. As the storm finally began to relinquish its grip, I felt the creeping warmth of a heart filled with promise. Together, we would face the dawn,